And hey, we are live. Hi, friends. My name is Mia Park, and I'm so honored here with Susan H. Pack or Sue Pack. So, welcome to this live streamed video series. It is called In Response Interviews with Intriguing Internalizers. So, an internalizer is a word that I made up, and an internalizer is someone who processes the outside world internally in very unique, rich ways. So, for our first interviewee, I'm so excited to have a really disciplined and accomplished artist, a playwright, Susan H. Pack. So, first of all, like my Facebook page, and that way you can subscribe and get more of these. This is also being simultaneously live streamed on my YouTube channel, so make sure to subscribe to that too. So, Susan H. Pack, hello. You are in Karachi, Pakistan right now, and I wanted to introduce Susan. She's so accomplished. So Susan has like more degrees than I have fake eyelashes on right now. Okay, she's like got an undergrad degree. She is an attorney. She's also a real estate broker. She got another master's degree in playwriting, and now she's been a college professor at many places for over 10 years, for a very long time. She's running 2 departments now at a university in Karachi. And I have been honored enough to be an actress in several of her plays and also produced readings of her plays, which are brilliant. So thank you for joining. Is there anything else you want to contribute about yourself?
Oh no, I just want to clarify. I'm teaching in one department, but it's called communication and design. So it sounds like 2, but yes, that's the only thing. Yeah.
Oh, good. Sorry, I apologize.
Yeah.
Thank you for correcting me.
No, that's fine.
Cool. Well, welcome. All right, so first couple questions. First, we're going to ask about your outside world, and then we're going to ask about your internal world. So outside world, you're in Karachi, Pakistan right now. And like, what's unique to where you are that's influencing the response?
I think that what I've really noticed that's very unique to Karachi, and it's really affected me, is how many people here live with extended family. Young, older, my age, in their 20s. And I think that this is something because I grew up in the States where it's a little different. I wasn't as used to. And then when I saw what happened, with this pandemic, I really got to see how important that is. It was something that I'm actually quite envious of. And as somebody who grew up a teenager, just couldn't wait to be 18 and move out of the house forever, blah, blah, blah. I'm really, especially in these very difficult times, I'm seeing how fortunate my colleagues are, my friends are, who have extended family that they all live with and all care for each other, not just emotionally, but even in just the day-to-day ways. So the other thing that's a little unique about Karachi is that right now, all of the car services like Uber, Careem, they've been shut down. So for somebody who's from a place like Chicago or, elsewhere where there was always transportation, public transportation or Ubers, it's become very challenging, right? To be able to just do the day-to-day things. And thank God for my partner, Kevin, who every day he goes out and he does these errands and, he stands under these like tarps or these kind of, I guess awnings, standing 6 feet away from everybody else as he waits to get into the supermarket. These are just things that you really realize what a network of familial support, how important that is, So I would say that is probably the most interesting and unique thing that I've seen in Karachi that is quite unique to me, to my experience. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So how, now focusing inwards, how's you're a very creative, deep thinker, so how is your internal world processing what's going on right now?
Well, what's been fascinating is that in some ways, the quarantine, the social distancing, it really has allowed me to live kind of like this ascetic lifestyle where I can really do as much for my art as I possibly can without feeling like I have to rush. I have the luxury to really sit and process those things that I feel like I just need to get off my desk, and it's been pretty incredible. I feel, first of all, I'm incredibly fortunate that I am able to do that, and I'm also incredibly fortunate that my job allows me to focus even more so on my art. You know, my classrooms kind of become a lab, not only where my students can kind of create their creative work, but that I too can kind of process what I'd like to try and do. And then at night, when I meet online with my writing partner for about 3 hours, I kind of have this really nice foundation from which I can maybe start processing or writing some scenes. And I guess it's that sense of being able to sit still with no distractions, that has been very surprising to me. And I think the reason that I really hated doing that in the past is because I grew up with a typical Korean mom who every single moment of my day had to be, you got to be out there doing something, right? And sitting and ruminating, you don't look like you're doing something, even though you really are. And I think what's been really interesting about my experience with the external world is now that everyone is doing what I'm doing, because we have to, I don't feel that guilt, that mental guilt of, well, I should really be out there doing something. I am doing something. But so much of what we do, like so much of busyness is like so performative. You know, we have to show people we're busy. And I think what's been valuable for me is really being able to do the kind of work that I enjoy doing, that makes me more productive, whatever that word means. And also kind of sharing that communally with kind of the whole world. I wonder if everyone is kind of going through the same thing, where now that they can't just go outside and they can't just constantly distract themselves with performative busyness, I wonder if they're kind of sharing this experience with me in some ways. And that actually makes me feel quite, I don't know, quite positive in the face of some really negative stuff, you know? So, yeah. You know,
That's such a great, thank you. That's such a great answer. A little bit of join my club. And I think like I call myself the most extroverted lone wolf of the pack. And I feel like you're similar in that way. Like we're good at hanging out, but there's like a love of being alone. And I appreciate how you're saying that you feel less pressure of doing what you've been doing, how you internally process alone and with this kind of exterior stillness, even though inside you're creating. So speaking of which, like how you're a very disciplined playwright. I know you spend like hours every day working on your craft. Such discipline. Your Korean mom would be very proud of you for the discipline. I'm wondering how, as an artist, specifically as a writer and a playwright, how is this your internal process of saying less guilt and your response to what's going on in the outside world? How is this influencing your art?
I think it's really influencing it in a positive way. You know, that discipline you talk about, like it's so hard to define what that is for yourself. And I think this is true of everybody, but you know, especially Korean American women or Asian people, it's like, again, that performative busyness. We want to make sure that everybody knows we're really working, trust us. But sometimes, you know, sitting at your desk and let's say you're trying to outline a scene or something, it may look like you're doing a lot of nothing. And then sometimes you do need to do a lot of nothing, right? So I think one of the things that it's really given me is this sense of time and space where I could be like, okay, so this is what my day is going to look like. And everything in my day, even if it's crafting an email or even if it's watching some YouTube video for a few minutes, everything is crafted around the notion that at 7:30 p.m. that night, I'm going to get online with my writing partner and we're going to sit down and write for 3 hours. So, you know, when you constantly have the the privilege of thinking that way, of everything that I encounter during the day, or every conversation I have, everything that I read when I'm prepping for class, right? Even the way that I craft my class or my job or whatever you want to call it, it all feeds into this thing you're going to do that can bring you great joy. And so even if I sit down and I write what I think is real garbage, all I care about is that it's there, because that morning it wasn't, right? And so one of the things that I really focus on with my students, because I'm going kind of through the same thing and it's a symbiotic relationship, is how do you get something down on the page without constantly censoring yourself to the point where now maybe you're procrastinating or you're scared. That whole notion of, all right, all day long, Sue, that's when you can outline your character scenes. That's when you can outline the conflict of the scenes. That's when you can do, you can read a play, and that's when you can take notes in, Vogler's The Writer's Journey. I mean, that's that homework time, but then nighttime is writing time. And again, it's kind of this really strange moment where you have the luxury of the entire day, in your little ascetic monk-like existence, where you can actually think about that. And I think that that helps very much so with the productivity, with just every night, let's just crank some pages out, Now there's going to be a lot of fixing that needs to be done, but it's really been a very fascinating process. I've really enjoyed it.
So when you say there needs a lot of fixing to be done, you mean rewriting?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, writing is rewriting, right? So this do you think that you're going to carry on this discipline after the pandemic is done? Because I know you were disciplined beforehand, and your habits may have changed a little bit because you're sheltering in place. But what do you want to take away with you process-wise after all this?
I think what I want to take away with me process-wise, is that's such a good question, is for me, but not for everybody, there's just a genuine fear of putting something down on paper. And I think what this has taught me is you can only talk about your writing for so long, whether it's to yourself or to your friends or to your journal. Like, the goal is for me to realize you can fix whatever you're putting down on the page, and that the rewriting is literally going back and really ripping apart what you've done. But if again, you stop, for me, if I stop thinking that the thing itself is so precious, but instead it's this whole entire thing that I've spent my whole day doing, which is processing things, again, through what I'm reading for class, or through a play that I'm watching, or, through a colleague's work that I'm reading. Like, if everything is just centered around that notion of, okay, tonight we're going to write some pages, then that process itself is incredibly valuable, right? Pushing yourself to create something out of nothing. There's a million different ways to do that, but to me, that is just such a special and valuable skill that I think everybody has the ability to do. But I think for me, I'm always the person who's always getting in my way. Nobody gets in my way as much as I do. So to answer your question, the thing to take with me is, even if things get totally back to normal and I'm bombarded by distractions, the thing to take away is that, okay, that's fine, but at the end of the day, you got to take all these distractions and see how they can somehow feed into what you're planning, your pages that night. So that's okay too. If I'm out there at a cafe, or if we're hanging out, in the back of my mind, it's always got to be, okay, but how is this going to feed what I do tonight, right? So,
Man, spoken like a true artist. So what I'm interpreting what you're saying is that your living life, is part of the process of your art. Like, you're taking you and I walking on the lakefront in Chicago as, like, how is this going to influence my playwriting later tonight? That's very helpful. And you're right. I think that's something that, if we have a focus or a passion, I think that a person who's works at being integrated is taking every walking part of your life or we call that being a householder in the spiritual world. Like you're just living your householding life, but it feeds into something like your art or your spiritual world, or both, if that's the same. That's really great. So I'm curious, like, what outside of sequestering time, do you really spend 3 hours a day creating art? Like, that's amazing. Like, how do you, what, you know what I mean? Like, what are you
Well,
doing if you're not spending 3 hours a day? That's quite disciplined.
and again, I want to say that, like, I have the luxury of that time, right? Like, not everybody does. And so I understand that not every, I'm certainly not being prescriptive, but because I have the luxury of that time, and because I have a writing partner who is just as dedicated as I am, to these 3 hours, those 3 hours are not like, I don't see them as a chore. I actually really look forward to them. And I'm going to be really honest. There are some nights where I just sit there and it's like, okay, I've literally written 3 lines. That's okay, because I have tomorrow. And at the end of our writing time, I always tell my writing partner, same bat time, same bat channel, I'll see you tomorrow. So I think that whether it's 3 hours, 2 hours, 15 minutes, as long as there's some consistency, the brain, and my brain, gets rewired into thinking, okay, I'm centering everything around this time that I've set aside to write, which means that everything I do throughout the course of the day has somehow got to feed into that. And it really is just a way, I think, of just shifting your perspective. Because if instead I'm going to shift my perspective to, oh, this bill is due and I have these 4 errands to run and I have to buy cat litter, like, if that's what I'm putting out there as far as where all of my energies should lie, then that's where it's going to go, right? So if anything, I think that setting aside that writing time is literally just about, like, shifting your perspective so that that one thing, whatever it is what everything in your world is going to feed into. So yeah.
That's actually great practical advice. Like, say if somebody starts it with an hour, between 7 to 8 p.m. tonight, and every night is when I focus on that. So let me get my laundry done and let me change the kitty litter, and whatever you're saying, especially if you have a partner that can help you do things like get groceries.
Yeah.
That's really great. So that's a fantastic suggestion. Thank you. I know that you mentioned that you are writing or have written a play during the pandemic, and that you've
Yeah.
got a quote from it you wanted to share.
Oh, sure. Okay. So this is from the last scene, and it's just the last scene is called The Last Dance. And, this is just a draft of the stage directions. So I'll go ahead and read them. Okay. All right. Laura and Mo eye each other across the Medusa's dance floor. They carefully avoid each other while being hyper aware of each other. They dance tentatively, swaying to the beats until they are back to back, moving in sync. They face forward, stealing furtive glances at each other as they move through the well-worn dances of their junior high lives. The square dance, the cheerleader, the rocker, the sprinkler. They grow more and more confident in their moves, resulting in a triumphant amalgamation of everything that they've been through and everything they aspire to be.
That's lovely. What a lovely middle school. I did a bad sprinkler, by the way. That's wonderful. What was your, did what's happening now inspire that lovely stage direction?
Yeah, I think so. I think one of the things that, and again, I think this is part of my teaching tactic as well. One of the things I'm always focusing on is we cannot have a perfect protagonist. Let's look at the conflict in this scene. What do these people want from each other? Let's stay away from conversations. And sometimes that drive to create like a flawed protagonist and lots of conflict, big and small, for my work has led to some kind of cynicism at times. And because I was writing about two friends in junior high, I didn't want that story to be mired in cynicism, because one of the things that I learned when I took Philip Dawkins' class on theater for young adults is that, theater for young people is usually not cynical for good reason. And so I think that in these moments when I was telling you that I felt kind of like a community where everyone's kind of invited to my house and let's all go through this together. And there's no judgment on how I'm living this internalized life. I did start feeling, less cynical. And I think that that's how I wanted the play to end, was that it was a joyful moment of dancing, of, nostalgia, a friendship. And so I do think that everything that I've been through while I've been here has really kind of fed into that. Yeah.
Wow, less cynicism, more joy, and a feeling of community, and feeding into your discipline framework of working on your art and craft for 3 hours a day. That's amazing. This is very inspirational. So cool. I don't know if anybody had any questions they might want to type in, but otherwise, this will live on my Facebook page at Mia Park, and also on my YouTube channel. So, and also I'll post in my YouTube channel information on you and how people can get in touch with you if they want. If you're a producer or an actor or anything, read her plays, great monologue opportunities, great production opportunities there. So you are brilliant. Thank you for being the first interviewee here. I'm honored. And good luck in Karachi. It sounds like things are going over there in Pakistan. But I cannot wait to see you again. So is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I just want to say thank you, Mia, because you are just a legend as far as being a leader in supporting Korean American work and works by and for Asian Americans. And it's through things like this that you give us a voice. And I am just so grateful that you're my friend, and I'm so grateful to know you. So thank you.
Okay, we have to, because we're Korean, can we do Korean hearts?
Okay.
Okay. It's a law. This is a rule. It's a rule from God. All right, Sue. Take care. We're going to end the broadcast, but you and I can still chat. So bye, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Take care.
Thank you.
Until tomorrow with In Response, interviews with intriguing internalizers. Bye-bye.